knowing that it's my first duplex development, I allowed a 15% buffer in my numbers. And so thankful I did because I pretty much use all of it.
You are listening to the Property Developer Podcast, your home for tips, ideas, and inspiration to help take your developing to the next level. Now here's your host, Justin Getty.
Hello and welcome to episode 109 of the show. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing? Keeping well? I've been good. Pushing to try and get my project finished. It's dragging on and on. Pretty much like the whole build, really. Anyway, we are very close to finishing. I've managed to get one of the townhouses staged and open as a display unit. So I'm hopeful that this will help our sales campaign along. I really need to start making some sales now that the project is nearing completion and the construction loan is getting close to maturing. There's still a lot of things to wrap up around the site, so I think we're probably 2 to 3 weeks away from actually finishing, although there will still be minor defects to fix up, no doubt. It's been a long and exhausting build, so I'm really looking forward to it actually being completed. On my other project, we have been making some changes to our floor plans as we are reducing the sizes of some of the units based on some further consultation and research. So we'll be going back to council for an amendment to the permit. Apart from that, we're getting set to demolish the house and get works underway. So plenty going on for me at the moment. If you want to get your own property development project underway, but you don't know where to start, then be sure to check out my property developer training, where I will take you step by step through a small scale residential project so you can successfully start and finish your first project. Check out everything that's included in the training at www.propertydevelopertraining.com. Or if you just want to find out how ready you might be to become a property developer, take the free quiz at propertydevelopertraining.com/quiz. Speaking of free, if you'd like to get a free copy of my popular book, Become a $1 Million Property Developer, then head over to www.propertydeveloperpodcast.com and grab yourself a copy. And just quickly, remember you can catch me on the socials under the handle of Property Developer Podcast, and the video of each episode is on YouTube if you want to see what the guests look like. Speaking of guests, let's get on to today's guest, a young architect turned property developer, Jenn Sinclair from Comma Projects. Jenn was inspired by designing and building her family home and decided to take on a duplex project to test her skills out to see if she could successfully execute a development project. Jenn decided to do 2 very different interiors and finishes on each unit, and this created challenges along the way as she often doubled her choices and decision making. Jenn invested a lot of time and emotion into her project and learned a lot along the way, which she shares with us, including the difference a great builder can make during a project, trusting in yourself to deliver something special, and working collaboratively with your team to get better results. Keep an ear out for how Jenn accidentally bought a house that was once a meth lab. Yep, you heard that right. This is a great story about a young developer trying to produce something special and succeeding. So let's get stuck into her story by discovering what Jenn would eat until she was sick.
I had to think about that one actually because I just love food so much. I'm such a foodie. Growing up in Hong Kong, I was just surrounded by food everywhere. But I think without a doubt, brownies would have to be my go-to.
Ooh, that's first time we've had brownies, and I'm surprised not many more people will reach for them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm an absolute sucker. Brownies and gelato.
If you can get those really awesome sticky brownies, the ones
The
that
gooey ones.
that just hold together.
You have to undercook them. That's the secret.
Yeah, so good choice. Well, it's great to have you on the show. We're going to be talking about your project shortly, which looks fantastic on the Gold Coast. But before we get to that, give us a bit of a background about yourself and how you got into property.
Yeah, I guess growing up in Hong Kong, yeah, Dad used to always take us to a lot of open homes for some reason. And yeah, it's funny because my sister and I both we yeah, some of our fondest memories is either Dad taking us to the park or going to look at property. So yeah, I think I just grew up getting used to being around that. And my uncle is also a quite an active property investor himself. And so I think I just grew up thinking that's what you do. You go and buy property, and as just life maybe. So yeah, so that was all. There was always an interest there, and then going through school. I also had a love for animals. So I thought I was going to be a vet. And until when they sent you out and did your week's worth of work experience, and at the vet, they just got me cleaning dogs with fleas and fighting magpies with a dog in one arm and the drip in the other arm. Like it was horrible. It was horrible. Completely put me off wanting to become a vet. And so the only other thing that I thought I might be interested in was architecture. So I was like, well, okay, let's have a go. So yeah, ended up in did my 6 year Masters of Architecture course in Brisbane, uh, and kind of got over it. Was almost about to quit after the fourth year, but I thought, no, no, I'll just persevere, just stick out my last 2 years, and I'm glad I did. And I got the chance to work in some very high-end residential architecture firms on the Gold Coast during uni and for a couple of years after graduating as well. And I guess that's where I got exposed to residential and actually having the chance to go visit the sites and projects actually completed, because a lot of my friends at uni, they were in big firms working in hospitals, or just being draftees, moving, yeah, toilets around on a plan, and never really got the chance to experience actual site construction, doing defects and that. So, and yeah, so I think I absorbed a lot of that experience, and not even just in architecture, but also in the interior design, learning how to make things look good, learning to spot, I guess, detailed joinery designs and have an appreciation of that as well. Anyway, then I met my husband, and we decided to go backpacking for a year. Um, and we also, during that time, we also kind of accidentally started a software company. He's a software developer, and so when someone was asking him to, oh, can you quickly write a code so that I can do this? He was putting it off for a little bit, but I said, oh no, you know what? Like, why don't you just do it? Like, get it done. And so he did. And we quickly realized that it wasn't just this guy that needed to use it. Like, there's a whole heap of other people that actually needed to use it. So that was accidental. And I guess as the demand grew, we just kept putting systems and processes in place, and just, yeah, grew the business. So in between traveling, growing a software company, and I guess being female, became a mum and all that. I took about 8 years. Was like more like an 8 year pause off architecture, growing that business. But I learned in those 8 years how to manage a small startup to hiring. I think it was up to about 12 or 15 staff, managing people, learning all about finance structures, accounting, contracts, lawyers, and all that. And then eventually we got acquired. The company got acquired, and also learning through, and like not just learning, but actually taking the business that we started all the way through to completely like selling it, that acquisition process, which was a whole nother ball game as well. So somehow I went from architecture to becoming a business owner and learning a lot of skills in that area. So after that, we decided that, you know what, like, let's design and custom build our own home, our own family home. And so, we did. We purchased the block right before all the price hikes. I still kept an eye on it, obviously, because I felt like back then we paid too much.
When's this? What year is this roughly?
This was 2019.
On the Goldie still?
On the Gold Coast, in Palm Beach on Australia Day. We just left the beach and we thought we'd pop into an open home, and we walked in and it was completely stripped out. Like there was nothing left. It was down to its framing and the slabs. And I was like, oh, this could work. This is great. Like there's less demolition to it. But little did we know, like it wasn't until later down the track, literally one day out of the contract going unconditional, we found out that it was like well known to the suburb that it was the meth house. So it was quite a story to it, and the plans were always to keep the existing walls and all that for a big renovation. But because of that existing meth that was still, like traces of it that was still positive and present in those framing, the building certifier allowed us to pull those walls down. So that was a bit of a surprise. But I absolutely loved every single part of building that house and designing it. And I think it was then that I knew I had to get back into architecture and design. So
you're definitely the first guest that we've had on the show that's bought a drug house and turned it into something different. But give us a bit of an idea about that block. Like how big was it? What size?
Yeah,
it's
a 612 square meter block. So sizable for Palm Beach.
That's pretty good for Palm Beach.
Yeah, definitely. And we somehow didn't have, or even now, with all the gentrification of the suburb and new developments, where none of our neighbours are double story. We're still surrounded by single story blocks, and our backyard we just have the most expansive view of the blue sky on a sunny day. And we just don't, we love it here. And we knew we didn't want a big house, we just wanted a small footprint. So we built it's about 270 square meter house, including like al fresco and stuff like that. But we just wanted a really big yard for the kids to ride their bikes and just be kids. And yeah, from I guess what the open day was Australia Day, and from that through to the day we moved in was, I think it was first weekend of December in the same year. So from us viewing the block, viewing the drug house, to design to construction, it was a total of 10 months,
It's incredible.
which was amazing.
That's really incredible. They just seem like dream kind of time frames these days.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. But it was also that year where we had the droughts. And so we didn't lose one single day to weather. Everything ran really smoothly. So probably a bit of luck that, my first project worked out so well.
Well,
And
you must have
so
had a good client that you were working with.
myself.
Yeah, it's easy to answer the questions, to make the decisions.
Yeah, no, you're right. I did have that luxury because also coming from a background of architecture, I was able to spend a lot of the hours when my son was in bed, just to work on those plans, work on those designs. Whereas you know, if you didn't have that skill set, you'd be waiting for weeks or months on end for going backwards and forwards with the designer, and which would eat into your holding costs quite a lot.
And so then was the next project the duplex, or did you do something else?
Yeah, no, so shortly after that, that was, yeah, so we moved in December 2019, and 2020, as soon as we moved in, COVID hit. And so obviously the world kind of stood still for a little bit, for just those first few months where no one knew what was happening. And so we decided to try for a second child, and we did. But yeah, life took a complete turn as soon as we moved in and I fell pregnant. I guess without getting into it too much, long story short is that my body started shutting down very quickly into my pregnancy. And so I ended up in a hospital bed for an entire month, not able to move. I was quickly losing a lot of breath. Like, I couldn't even talk, basically. I laid there and I couldn't reach for my call button to call the nurses at night. And and so because of that, my little girl had to come out very early. So she came out 3.5 months early. And then we ended up, her hospital journey. Well, yeah, we ended up going through her hospital journey for the next 4-5 months. So yeah, and my older son was just starting school as well, all at the same time. So yeah, I'd say our life got put on pause for 12 to 18 months completely. So I didn't do any property stuff, as you'd imagine. But I think going through that experience as well has also reminded me to like, life is fragile, life is short. And I knew that building is what I want to do. It's my passion. When I built this house, it completely lit me up. It brought me so much joy. And so, yeah, with life being so fragile, like, you just have to go and create your own opportunities. Like, you can't just sit around and wait for something to fall into your lap. So, yeah, with my baby in the carrier, like, well, not quite. I went to an auction one evening while my husband was doing the kids' bed and bath time. I didn't expect to win it. And I just
Did you
called him.
tell
I was
him?
like,
Did you tell
yeah.
him that you were
Oh,
going?
I did tell him I was going, but neither of us thought we'd actually win it. And yeah, and oh, it was COVID as well. And I was like trying to yell through my mask while my body was still recovering from the hospital and all that. And somehow I won it. And I just called my husband, can you bring the kids down and can you bring the trustees down? We just got to sign something.
And bring your checkbook.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was all kind of, I guess, meant to be. Um, but we sat on that for another 6 months before we even started actioning anything because we were still trying to get back to, yeah, navigating to normal life, I guess.
So tell us about that site. How big was it? Where was it?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to build in the same suburb and also do the whole thing again with the same builder. I didn't feel like I could do it again with another builder. I think we built a really good relationship off my first build. So knowing that I already had my builder in mind and that I wanted to be in the same suburb, like I was constantly feeding him listings like, what do you think of this block? What do you think of that block? And yeah, this block was one that he told me to really try and go for it. So it's a 506 square meter block. It's already positioned in a zoned, medium density zoned street in Palm Beach, which was great because I knew I wanted to do a duplex. And location wise, it's great. Like at the end of the street is a set of shops with restaurants, cafes, bakery, all that stuff. Just behind it is a beautiful family park. And yeah, location wise was perfect. So yeah.
What was it about, and what did the builder like about it? What was his input?
Actually, I think the gem of it was also because it's a very tightly held street, given its location. You're so close to everything and the beach as well, yet it's still a quiet street. Um, that's already zoned for medium density. So yeah, and that's why I went for it.
How did you find the builder originally that you worked with on the house and then to do the duplex?
Yeah, look, I probably didn't do my due diligence as well as I should have back when I was just planning my house build. I called three builders, I think. Yeah, one never returned my call. Um, Second one was great, but he was, I think, more into more of the townhouses, like more medium um, density kind of stuff. And the Danny, my builder that I ended up going with, he he was the only one who answered my call, actually took the time to be patient with me and answered all my questions. Um, and yeah, like I think there's a lot to say about that as well in terms of, reassuring the client, just how he dealt with everything. Like he made me feel like he always had the time for me. And I just decided I just went with my gut instinct that no, I'm going to go with him. Like I didn't go and get quotes from different people, different builders or anything. It was just based off my instinct. And yeah, and I honestly can't fault him still after my second build with him
Oh, that's
and the
fantastic.
company. Yeah.
Makes such a
Yeah.
massive difference when you've got a good builder that you can trust and rely on. Having gone
Yes.
through a build with, at the moment, on my own project with a builder that probably hasn't met my expectations in many instances, I completely understand how much of an impact it can have on your project when it doesn't meet your expectations and standards.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like I honestly don't know many people at all who have done renos, any sort of construction. Like if anything, they're all put off by it. So I'm very grateful. And I do know that, yeah, it doesn't happen a lot to really have that really good builder
Yeah.
who is really good at project management as well.
Yes, I always say to any friends of mine who ask me for my advice when they're doing renovations or going to do a build, I say just go in with the expectation that it's going to be a really crap experience and just start from there. Then you won't be disappointed. Anything from there will be a bonus if it's better than that.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it.
So,
Expectations are always bring disappointments.
yeah. So, with the development side, with the duplex, did you go in with a design in mind? And did you do the design or did you engage a designer to do it for you?
Yeah, I went because I'm not a registered architect. I can't. I don't have my insurances um, and all that logistics side of things. So I went to a building designer with my floor plans, and he helped me refine it. And we just went from there. And we probably also were able to once again kill a bit of time back and forwards um, because of that. And with the interior design, I worked with a friend of mine who I used to work with in one of the architectural firms, and she did some of it, and I did some of it as well.
So, did you go to the building designer with some facade treatments or elevations, or did you leave that to them?
Yeah, it was collaborative. Like I gave them my brief, and yeah, just back and forth. They presented some ideas, and I I presented mine, and yeah, and that's what we ended up with.
And so, when you were going into the project, because correct me if I'm wrong, you were aiming for a high-end luxury finish, and
Yes.
you had two so side by side duplex project, but
Hmm.
they were different. Is that correct?
Yes,
Each
yes,
side had
very
their
much so.
style and
Yes.
feel.
So from day one, my vision for this particular project was to deliver a pair of high-end villas because in the suburb, in our suburb, I just I was looking around, and the majority, like I'd say 95% of the new duplex developments on dry blocks that aren't waterfront or near the beachfront, um, there was just not much high end stock. Um, as soon as you wanted anything high end or a little bit more luxe, you'd have to fork out another $1 million to go on waterfront. And so I felt like there was a big gap that, if I could deliver something for people who are in the middle, um, perhaps that would take off. So it was a bit of a guinea pig um, project because who knows, like maybe there wasn't a demand for it. But yeah, so that was always my vision and goal for this particular project. And yeah, and the response has been really, really overwhelmingly positive. I think because you see, like Gold Coast is only going to grow, um, and you see a lot of the interstate properties, they are high end. But yeah, not everyone can afford or want to be waterfront, which I personally don't want to be waterfront. So yeah.
And then what was the thinking about doing the two different styles? Was that to create differentiation so you didn't have the same product, or an opportunity to
Yes.
showcase your skills? What's
Yeah, definitely. I think also being a designer, I felt, well, hey, I'm doing two here. Why waste the opportunity to have them exactly the same? Um, yeah, I'm very much into my photos and as any designer might be, like I wanted to be able to expand on my portfolio and build on that. Um, so yeah, and I'm glad I did. It was a lot of work. It was essentially, it became, yeah, it became like I was building two houses at the same time. And yeah, it was a lot more work than I realized or thought. But yeah, 100%. I'm glad I went with that decision.
where did the extra work come from? What was unexpected, or what did you discount in terms of how long you thought it would take to do something?
I guess the difference is that whilst the floor plans were the same, um, interior design wise, it was very different. So different finishes, colors, um, a lot of, yeah, different joinery design. Um, yeah, even under the staircase is different, the different tiles, materials, everything, and lighting as well, different lighting. So I was running around like mad every day. As soon as I dropped the kids off at school, trying to source everything for two different projects
Sounds like a
that was
designer
under the
fantasy.
same roof.
Designer fantasy, two different projects under the same roof, getting to push the boat out with the look and feel.
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah, it was actually, but also came with a lot of stress and decision fatigue as well. Always second guessing yourself.
Yeah, look, that's a really good point, because it's something that you don't think about when you get started in property development, is
Hmm.
the number, this just sheer number of decisions that you have to make along the
Yes,
way. And some of them are little
yes.
ones, inconsequential, really, but then there's some big ones too, where you're kind of sitting there thinking this is going to make a big difference to the project, which way you decide
Hmm.
to go. And so, yes, you do sometimes have some decision fatigue.
Yeah, very much so. And I think for me, every this build and my family home, that build, that was it's a heart project. So I poured my heart and soul into it. And so I called them my babies, really. And so this duplex was a set of twins. It was a boy and a girl. Um, but yeah, and I think maybe different to a lot of the developers where they're not so involved in the design phase. I very much am. I was living and breathing it every single minute of the day, and so right down to the color of the grout between which tile and where, like it was always there was always something to make a decision on.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's really little things as well. Like, where do you
Yeah,
put the
yeah.
PowerPoints? Do you want the PowerPoints 150 off the bench top, or do you want a 200? Oh,
But I think as a designer, those little things are not little things.
yeah,
It's
that's
all in
right.
the detail. So, I know that, and it's a lesson learned as well. Like moving forward, like I think I need to decide on how how caught up do I want to be um, in terms of designing, and because that has set me back in time as well, being the one who is doing the design, spending all the hours at night while the kids are in bed, um, doing render after render. I think I've probably generated over thousands of renders. Um, and that I'm sure like that slowed me down in building it, but maybe that's the way that I'll develop. Like, I'm not sure yet. And
Have you kept
I
tabs
think,
of the number of hours that you actually invested into the project?
yeah, I actually haven't. It's funny because one of my close girlfriends said to me, "Gosh, I can't believe the number of hours you are putting into this project because to a lot of my girlfriends, this duplex has just been a side project of mine, maybe something fun that I'm doing on the side, but in reality was, yeah, reality was that it was completely full-time project that I had to manage it in part-time, I guess, being a mum and all the other life duties that you have.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you've invested that much time and effort into it because, as you say, most developers wouldn't get down into the nitty-gritty like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, being a female, and I think most buying decisions when it comes to buying property are made ultimately by women a lot of the time when if they're involved in the buying process,
Yes. Yeah,
uh,
agreed.
or certainly have a massive influence on it.
Yes.
So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on whether you had females in mind when you were doing the design and as buyers. Was that something that entered into your thinking around the design that you did, the finishes that you made, or was it more, this is what I really love and I think it's really beautiful and pretty and awesome, and
Mhm.
someone else will appreciate that and be prepared to pay a premium or get excited about it as well?
Yeah, look, a little bit of both. Um, I guess obviously being female, my instinct is to, especially with duplex too, my instinct is to try and prioritize storage. Storage everywhere, but also as a designer, I'm like, well, how do I make that look good, but also not overspend on joinery? Um, yeah, it was very interesting exercise. Um, I think the battle between being a designer and having the freedom to be my own client and do whatever I think looks good. That was that was really cool and obviously a lot of fun. But then at the same time, yeah, costs were going up. And how do I decide what to cull um, without sacrificing those moments that pull on the buyer's heartstrings? So, yeah, I think through the journey, my priority was to pull on those emotions, create a product that can pull on those emotions um, and create that FOMO. Deliver a product where it's very unique and they won't be able to find anywhere else anytime soon. That was my priority, but then also, yeah, setting myself the challenge to stick within the budget. So maybe choosing a cheaper tile, or they're just going to have to bring their own TV console instead of, spending $4,000 on a floating TV cabinet.
Well, I was just about to ask you whether there were any examples that you could remember where you had to make a choice and
Yeah,
what you went with.
yeah. So many, even just right down to like I originally had my heart set on the wine rack being in a glass cabinet. I figured surely it won't be that much. It'll just be like a miniature shower screen scaled down where you just open up the door. and get your wine, not even temperature controlled, and it wasn't even a full height, it was just a half height. And that itself, the quote was $2,500 plus GST. And so I'm like, oh, I really had my heart set on it because it looks so good in photos, but then am I going to spend $2,500 on it? Yeah, those little examples.
Yeah, and the tiles are always a killer as well because there's always, you see the tile and you go, oh my God, that's the tile that I want. And it's
Yes.
always the most expensive one. Uh,
Yes. I'm a bit of a researcher. I love to do research. I probably over research on a lot of things. And so when I go shopping, I like to look at every single shop and know exactly what all my options are. And yeah, so from that exercise though, I was able to, what, like if that's the tile, the $300 tiles that I want, I'm gonna have to find um, something that's only like $35 a square meter for, you know, the ones that you wouldn't even realize or notice. So yeah, it's just about, I guess, it's a balancing act.
and were you on site every day, pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much from frame stage on, I think. Yeah, pretty much on site every day. I think because I was very involved with the design as well, there was just always something that I'd have to look at or measure up and try and envision in the space um, as the build progressed. But also, I actually, funnily enough, like I feel right at home being on a construction site. I just love it so much. I think growing up in Hong Kong, I used to sit in our little apartment on the windowsill, and I'd just watch all the big buildings being built level by level, and I was just always so intrigued. And so yeah, just being on a building site just really, it's like my playground. I don't want to leave.
Sometimes when I walk onto site and I see some of the work the trades are doing, or it's like, oh my God, what are these guys doing here?
Yeah. But I think that there's also a benefit in, like, if you spot things early, you can rectify it early as well. And also living so close to site, it also helps, yeah, drastically. Like if, if, yeah, if my builder calls me at 7 o'clock in the morning and say, can you pop down for 5 minutes? I can do that. And together we just put our problem solving hats on, and work together towards a solution, and I'm back at home in 20 minutes. So yeah, that's been very, very helpful, being geographically close to the building site as well.
Yeah, look, I wish my building site was a little bit closer than where it is, because for that same reason, you can just duck down there for half an
Yeah,
hour or an hour every day, have a quick look
yeah.
over what's happening, and then shoot back home. But anyway, that's not the way it's been. How did you find being a female on site, working with your builder and the trades?
Yeah, it is interesting because I guess you don't often walk onto a building site and always see a female running around who's not part of the building team. Like we have a couple of female apprentice chippies working on our project, which is amazing to see. More women in the construction industry now, but I'm not one of them. I wasn't in the uniform. I'm not always in my work boots with my tool belt. And so it has been interesting because when some subcontractors rock up to site, and they don't realize I'm the ultimate decision maker. So there has been at times where I've asked them to change something or try to give them directions. Yeah, there has been pushback because they they would say, oh, look, I don't know who's going to pay for it, but it's going to take this many hours of my time. And so, yeah, I've just had to learn to trust my own instincts back myself and also be assertive, not coming across rude at the same time. Just be assertive and be firm in my requests and actually just say, oh, that's okay. Like I'm the one who's going to be paying for it. And yeah, and like in that specific instance, like straight away he was taken back. He was like, oh, do you own this? I was like, yeah, it's my project. Um, and then other instances where, like, my husband has been very hands off with this whole project, and he came to site probably about a handful of times, and as soon as he walks on site, subcontract the subbies just turn to him um, for directions, questions, even to the point where he literally says to them, with me standing in front of him, he says to him, oh, ask the boss, pointing at me. They still won't talk to me. They're still talking to him. Yeah, so it has been interesting. I think at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, like consciously or subconsciously, women in the construction industry, we do have to work that little bit extra just to prove ourselves. And time is changing, which is a great thing. But I think at the end of the day, it's still reality for us and a little challenge that we have to learn to overcome in
Well, it's
our own
funny.
way.
Well, so, that same thing happens to me on site sometimes.
Okay.
When I'll be
Okay.
there, it's happened on my current project more than once, where I'll be on site and a subcontractor will be doing something, and I'll go, that's not what I want. That's not the finish that I want. And they just look at you and go, talk to the builder. Like, the builder's told me to do it this way, so that's how I'm doing it. Go,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah,
want that, and I'm the guy who's in charge. I'm paying the
yeah,
bills. And they just go,
exactly.
talk to the builder, and they just continue doing it, and then it has to get rectified later on and reworked.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that I think that comes back to also communication and trust. My builder trusts me enough to, you know, let me talk to the subbies and deal with them directly. But I do try and any decisions that I make with a subcontractor, I try to fill in and update my builder because my builder knows that I am very particular. It is my design, it's my baby, and so every single decision needs to be run past Jenn anyway. So sometimes it's just more efficient um, to actually just go straight to Jenn. But I can see that, by doing that, there can be a lot of things like miscommunication and things getting missed. So yeah, just I I realize the amount of trust that my builder has also put in me as a client to let me drive some of those conversations.
Well, that's good. I mean, if you know what you're talking about, then why wouldn't you be able to do that? You're paying the bills
Yeah,
after all.
yeah, but at the same time as well, I've also learnt that everyone does have something to bring to the table. Um, I only know so much of it, and so we're working together as a team to achieve the same goal. and that we all have each other's best interests at heart. So I think at the end of the day, like it is so important to find that team where you work well together and you understand each other's personalities. And by doing so, like that mutual respect is there. You're yeah, just knowing that just because I have an idea doesn't mean that it's always right, or there's always something better. There's always a better solution to a problem. So let's all get together and listen to each other and come towards a solution together. Yeah.
And how long did the build take, and how did you go budget-wise?
Look, for
And
a
I
set of
asked that
duplex
question.
with for a set of duplex with that amount of detail that I threw at my builder, I think we demolition was February and handover was December. So 10-month build for two complete different finishes, different
Fantastic.
interior designs. Yeah, I'm stoked. And of course, there was always going to be delays. That's to be expected. But yeah, overall, it was a 10-month build. But obviously, as you'd understand, planning took a lot as well before the actual build. So all up, that was a 2-year project for me.
And then just in terms of budget, percentage-wise, plus or minus, where'd you come in?
Um, I knowing that it's my first duplex development, um, I allowed a 15% buffer contingency in my numbers, and so thankful I did because I've pretty much used all of it. And I think, yeah, it just goes to show how important it is to have your numbers right from day one, even though, yeah, it is my first build, and I do admit I was very emotionally attached. And also those problems that always come up, oh, that's a $10,000 fix. Oh, that's another $8,000. And then, oh, so we originally allowed for 40 screw piles because my builder only just built literally 2 doors down not long ago. And so we thought 2 doors down, surely it'd be similar soil. But we ended up having to put in 70. So straight away, that was an extra $40,000. So yeah, very, very glad that contingency was there.
I was very wise to have a 15% contingency.
Yeah,
And
yes,
then
for sure.
in terms of the end sales, what were you hoping? I mean, did you have a number in mind for what you were hoping to sell them for versus, I don't know, whether you've actually sold them or not?
Yeah. We sold Villa A, one of them, and that was always the plan. That one was the one to be put on the market first, and so that was the north facing one, and yeah, the response was very positive, as I said, and yeah, I'm pretty stoked about the sale price. Yeah.
Was it
Um,
more than what you wanted, around what you wanted? Just like, did you get a better outcome?
it was pretty much around what I wanted, actually. Um, I'm just stoked that someone would pay it.
And who bought it, and why was one earmarked to be sold first rather than the other one?
Oh, just for our long-term portfolio goals, I guess. The plan was to sell one and then hold the other one. Um, but, you know, never say never. um, yeah, if there's a buyer who came along and offered the right price for the second one, yeah, like I'd be open to it. Yeah.
Who was the purchaser?
Oh, they're actually just a local family. They're looking for a sea change. They've come from acreage, I think, acreage living, and looking to move closer to the beach. And I think the 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 wife is an interior designer herself. So yeah, that's nice to know that I'm kind of handing my baby on to someone else who will actually really appreciate the design details that I put a lot of thought in. So yeah, it was really, really good result.
Kind of sounds like the ideal buyer that you would picture at the start of the project.
Yeah, perfect buyer. But to be honest, though, I wasn't quite clear on who my target market would be because the suburb is going through gentrification and Gold Coast is growing. So it would used to be the 50s to 65-year-olds would be looking to downsize, looking for a duplex. And so there was a lot around you need to make the living space as big as you can and just have 3 bedrooms. Don't do 4 bedrooms to take up that floor area. But just something in me, I just felt like, no, it's changing. Like the Gold Coast is changing. Like I see a lot of young families coming into the suburb who, or like interstate people who are used to very small lots, but they still want that low maintenance and yeah, that low maintenance living duplex and where they can just lock and leave and they can just go and travel as well. Um, so yeah, so with that in mind, I actually designed it so that it would suit a broader market, so that it would suit a family as well as a downsizer.
And now that you've got it all wrapped up, what would you say your biggest lesson has been?
My biggest lessons, gosh, I think 3 main things. First is mindset. Second is patience. And third would be perseverance, I think. Mindset, uh, being female in a male dominant industry, um, you just got to learn to not take things to heart. And also just to realize that property development is a problem solving game. Um, there were quite a few times where I almost cried on site when things weren't going my way. But yeah, as soon as I shifted my mindset into thinking that this is a whole problem solving project, it became a thing where I would actually look forward to, okay, what's today's problem that we're going to solve? Like, I actually became excited when I get a phone call and that we had to, come together and solve something. So it actually became a fun game. And yeah, I was pretty proud of myself. I think I actually only cried tears twice for the whole 2 years, which is good, which is
I
very
think that's
good.
better than me on my latest project. I think I cried last night, actually.
Oh no.
No. Okay.
But But yeah, patience is also a very big thing too. I think I've come to realize that I'm not a very patient person. Um, we've always been in a blessed position where we've worked for ourselves, and I've always been a doer. As soon as I have a vision or an idea in my head, I I take that idea and I turn it into reality. And so to learn that things are out of my control sometimes, especially when waiting for counsel, waiting for consultants to get back to you. That was really, really hard to go through, I think. And also like our software company, it was a CRM software, like a customer relation management software. So, and our business motto was always, we always get back to our clients, customers within 24 hours response time. And so that was just what I was used to. And then, I come into this development industry and I'm like, why is everything taking so long? And also knowing like an extra week, the holding cost is an extra few $1,000s. Like there's a lot of money wasted in just waiting. So yeah, learning patience.
So funny. I know so many property developers who claim that they're impatient. Like, how did you end up in the property development game? Just the whole thing is sitting around waiting for somebody to do something or get it off somebody's desk or something to start that
Yeah,
should have already started a week ago. So much of
yeah,
it's out of your control.
yes, exactly. And I'm learning that very quickly.
Uh, is that why the business name, comma projects?
Learning to take a pause
Yeah, that's yeah,
with a comma.
yeah.
No, no, that's a good one actually, but no, it's not quite. Comma projects represents that it's not the end, basically. Like I'm so passionate about it. I love it so much that it's not a full stop. It's not the end. That there will be more projects to come, hopefully, if I get my numbers
Well,
right.
yeah. Speaking of which, what's next on the drawing board?
Yeah. So I'm learning also, perseverance, that if I want to keep doing this in the long run, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so, I had a really, really great experience doing a duplex, um, but it's not sustainable for this season of life with two little kids. Being a mum of two little kids, it's very demanding. And most nights I was surviving on 4 hour sleeps because I was up late trying to get my designs done. So I have decided my next project is going to be a single high-end home. So I only have to work on one set of finishes rather than two. Um, and also engaging an architect and going to sit back a little bit and let them drive the floor plan.
Good luck. Good luck letting that go.
Yes, actually, I think that's going to be another learning curve for myself. A bit more patience, I think I need to learn. But yeah, I just think it's not sustainable to do another project the way that I did. Um, yeah, I think I need to rest and fill my own cup up first, and try and sit back a little bit. Second row, not the back row. I'll just sit on the second row for this project.
So,
Yeah.
Jen, what would you say your top tip is for people who are listening in who might want to take their developing to the next level?
Oh, I think that's including myself, speaking to myself. I think definitely try and surround yourself. Go network, go find those people who are doing the same, something similar. Um, surround yourself with someone who have maybe just gone before you as well, even if it's just that one step ahead of you, because they don't necessarily have to be 10 steps ahead of you, because sometimes if they're just that one step ahead of you, they're more up to date in your space, I guess, and have a lot more relevant information, and you can actually learn off each other. Just keep learning, never stop learning. Know that every single project is going to have its own challenges, and expect that. And I can't speak more highly of the importance of networking, especially being female in this space. It can be very lonely. It can feel very intimidating, and you don't. as soon as you don't have the confidence as a female in this industry, you just won't. Yeah, you don't tend to back yourself, and obviously my husband's in a complete different industry as well, and so most often you do see couples doing it together, but I, I guess that's a luxury I didn't have doing this project, and so I really had to go and find those other women who are doing the same thing, even just have the same interest in renovating, building, just so we can, have our chats and our cries. um, and and even just sharing our challenges in doing all this in the middle of raising kids and being mums. Yeah, I think that's been hugely invaluable in keeping me sane and getting me through it.
Yeah, look, that idea of loneliness or sense of loneliness at times, I think cuts across males and females in developing,
Hmm.
because I know
Hmm.
it can be a lonely game at times because you're the only one who
Yeah,
knows everything that's going on, where all
yeah,
the problems are, the challenges that you're facing, the issues that you got to resolve, some big
yeah,
questions that you need to answer, or just complexity that needs to be solved. And there's just no one else who understands it all because
yeah,
they just don't have the full picture. There's just nobody
yeah,
else. And so that
exactly.
can be a bit of
And
a lonely feeling at times.
yes, I completely agree. And I think, back when I was working in architecture firms, I I didn't understand that if I didn't get my plans finished today, that's costing someone a heck of a lot of money. You know, back then I was just honing in on the designs and stuff, but now that I'm doing this project, now I have a bigger understanding and bigger scope of things. Um, yeah, and it's a domino effect. Yeah, so like you say, it can be very lonely when yeah, not many people really understand the scope that you're dealing with.
Well, it's great that you found or created a little network. And that's something that I suggest to people who are in developing, who contact me wanting to plug into a networking group, or
Mm,
say, well, just go out and create one. Just go and find one other person or two other people and just have a chat to them about what you're going through. Because
yeah, yeah,
a lot of other people will be happy to talk as well and get something off their chest.
yeah, that's it, that's it. And yeah, while a group is great, I think at the end of the day, it's just those one or two key people that you trust, and yeah, you can just call up in the middle of the night, and maybe not in the middle of the night. Yeah, anytime during the day.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to share a problem sometimes.
Mm, yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, it's been great talking with you, Jen. Was there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
think for me personally anyway, the key takeaway is just to, be open to learning, be adaptable, surround yourself with like-minded people and just go for it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you've gone forward in your project and done something that you're really proud of and something that inspires you, because that's something that I say to people who are students of mine or mentor, people that I help mentor or talk to, like
Hmm.
do something that's going to inspire you, because you're going to face challenges whichever way you go. So you might as well tackle something
Yeah.
that's going to inspire you, because you're going to enjoy it more. It's going to help you get over all the hurdles and bumps along the way. So
Yes. Yes. And that's
congratulations
it.
on getting
Yeah.
a beautiful project done, and good luck with the next one,
Thank you.
whatever that one looks like. I'm sure it'll be stunning. So if people
Thank
are
you.
interested,
Hopefully.
yeah, if people are interested, where can they find out more about you?
At the moment, the best place would just be on social media, on Instagram. I try and share a lot of the behind the scenes. Um, just to really show them how all the nitty gritty and all the decision making behind every detail. Like it's not just a pretty magazine photo, but behind that photo, 1,000 times a million decisions have had to go into it. So yeah. So just on Instagram,
What's that? Comma projects, is that the handle?
comma underscore projects.
Very good. Yeah, well, there's some great photos and videos on your feed, so that's definitely a good place to go. Jenn,
Yeah.
it's been so awesome talking with you today. Thanks for being a guest on the Property Developer Podcast, and best wishes for the upcoming projects.
Thank you so much for having me, Justin. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Property Developer Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips, ideas, and inspiration to take your developing to the next level. For more developing love, make sure to visit propertydeveloperpodcast.com.